that was a, super humbling experience as well, where, I was on life support basically, or, on oxygen and going through my own little trip, like on morphine and whatever they put you on. And just like, I remember seeing the evolution of time. I saw wars. I saw dinosaurs and wars, like all in like HD, like floating.
While you were out.
Yeah. And wow. I saw, God, I met the Beatles. I mean, for real, like all this crazy stuff.
What God looked like? I'm kidding.
And then
he looked like Ringo.
And then I was like in this like metal square room, naked in my own feces, and I was like, I'm done. I give up. And I remember looking up like and thinking, okay, I will do whatever. I don't know what's going on. I thought I was in the hospital because I had like gotten stabbed by a nurse with a screwdriver. I mean, the story was just insane that was going through my head, and I was like, I'm done. And then this white light is just coming at me, and it's just getting super intense. And then I basically like wake up from there.
So I'm always interested to have a conversation with somebody about what they wanted to be when they were younger. Almost everybody had aspirations to be something or be somewhere greater than where they ended up. Everybody wanted to be a athlete or a rock star or whatever. But what's interesting about talking to somebody like Jowed is that he actually got to taste it. Eclectic Approach was on tour for years. They played all over. They got to play South by Southwest and open for Macklemore, and they played on Jimmy Kimmel, which is insane for a band from here. I only got to see them a couple times. I actually got to play a show with them one time at the Rock Reactor back when that was still a thing in downtown Kennewick. And the thing that always stood out to me about them was that they had this relentless positivity. And I'm sure that came from all of them, but you can feel it coming off of Jowed even today. And it's easy to imagine that somebody would feel a certain way after having lived that life for a while and then finding themselves as a family man with a job as a loan officer. But Jowed doesn't feel that way at all. And I think it's that attitude that made him successful in music in the first place and is going to make him successful at anything he does, and a successful role model for his kids. But anyway, if you like what you see, do the whole like and comment and share thing, and do us a favor and subscribe, because we're going to be having a bunch of these conversations with people in the future. But for now, here is Jowed Hadeed. What's the craziest way somebody's gotten your name wrong?
Somebody said to someone else for me that my name was Jared, but that I had a speech impediment and I didn't know how to say my own name. That was probably the most clever. His name's, what did he say?
So you'll now be known as Jared the rest of this podcast.
His name's Jowed, but he doesn't know. I don't know how to say it right.
Jowed.
So Jowed, everybody says Jowed.
Jowed.
But I don't even think it's right by what it should be, because my dad's from Syria, but I think it should be like Jowed. But it's
speaking
Jowed.
of Syria, what does Siri say? You ever tell Siri to call? You ever, like how it reads it back to you? I'm working with a client whose last name is French, and Siri goes calling.
Oh, Siri.
Siri, like on a phone.
Yeah.
Siri says it'll say certain things as questions. It'll, when I tell it to call my wife, it says calling Emma Wigwith. I'm like, I don't know why.
Everybody has me in their phone that's close friend of mine or my wife as not Jowed, but like Joe, I think last name
right.
Ed. And it's the only way Siri gets it right.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
But the name is Syrian.
It's probably like Jowed.
Yeah.
I
think so. Yeah, we'll find out.
For the record, Jowed.
Okay, there it is. The hell was I talking about?
I don't know. Let's just get this thing going, huh?
So that was it going.
Oh, was it? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Jowed.
Sure.
Where are you from? Are you from here? And let's go from there.
Yeah. So my name's Jowed Hadeed. I was born in California and moved to Tri-Cities when I was 6 years old. So I've lived here pretty much my whole life. I did move to Seattle for a while and whatnot, but
as you do.
Yeah. And right now I am a loan officer with Umpqua Bank Home Lending, and also play music in a band called Eclectic Approach. and
I would say that's what most know you for probably right now, huh?
or the Lescavar jingle.
Oh yes.
Is that still running?
I don't know. I haven't heard it in a
So
while.
I listen to ESPN radio all the time, and I remember talking to you about this before, that I would hear that song, I don't know, 3-4 times a day, because I would just be listening to ESPN radio while I went throughout my day, and it was like every other commercial break I would hear your voice. And
Yeah.
I remember thinking like I probably heard your voice more times, not for a longer amount of time, but more separate times than I actually heard my wife's voice.
I used to tell people that my mom was the operator lady that said, "I'm sorry, the number you called has been disconnected." And I was like, "She has the most heard voice in the world." And they just were like, "No way." I was like, "Yeah, no way. I'm kidding."
That's a fun little lie.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that one. That doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of Lescavar, I mean, that kind of Jeff Lescavar and that jingle, that kind of can take you back to how our band kind of started, Eclectic Approach, because Jeff Lescavar was a huge financial support for us. You know, he would buy our CDs and distribute them and have us come play at his house. And
So who was all in the band in the beginning, and when did you guys start?
oh God, we started, I think it's been 20 years, which seems insane, but about 20 years ago, actually.
Okay.
And it was Mark Putnam, Cameron Fordmeyer, DJ Roughcut, Johnny, and Ryan Jander. And then our bass player, we had a couple different bass players.
Always.
So,
And now
and then
that-
we had Brian Paxton on the drums.
So let's flash forward to now. Who's still in the band?
Ryan Jander is still in the band, and myself. Mark Putnam will come on stage every once in a while and play with us, but those are the main ones. And then Justin McDonald, the other guitar player, has been in our band for over 10 years.
Awesome.
Did you guys start in the Tri-Cities, or did that?
We did start in the Tri-Cities.
And then you moved originally, was it Pullman?
Yep, went to Pullman, went to WSU, and
Yeah.
we kind of migrated there. And then from there, we went to Seattle, basically.
Well, so is Pullman kind of where it started to kind of
The way that I look
take
at
shape?
it is that I think for me, music has always been about just the joy of it. I've always enjoyed it. I feel like my childhood was a little bit strange, and that was definitely an outlet for me. And people enjoyed the music we did. We wrote a song together, Ryan and I, in the basement at my parents' house, and we put it out, and people were like, "This is cool." And that was the first step.
What was that called?
I think that was No Stopping This.
No, stop this. Okay.
I believe so. Anyways, and then people liked us, and that was the fuel. I think, you know, that wasn't the reason we did it, but it was definitely the fuel that kept us going. So Tri-Cities, people supported us. You know, Ray's Golden Lion, we always had great success there. We go to Pullman, people enjoyed us there. We played house parties, we played Battle of Bands, we did their, you know, Spring Fest, all those types of things. And so it was, again, just kind of, you know, having people support you and come out to your shows is a big push for us that led us to then go to Seattle and continue on.
What's the scene like in Seattle? Having a band going there?
At that time, it was difficult to get started, but, you know, we treated it like, we had to treat it somewhat like a business. And so we did a lot of promotion, and we just, you know, did our best to get our name out there. We did different competitions. We you know, we had some success as well. You know, we sold out the Showbox Market with our record release show. But it was a trip. We shared one little box room for a while with this haircut lady who was a fan, let us stay at her house for free, and we'd rotate like who would get to sleep on the bed. So it was a very humbling experience, you know. As a kid, you know, financially, my dad was a doctor, so, you know, I had a good childhood in that sense of just like whatever. But you know, that experience was definitely like we were living poor for sure, and it was a really humbling, really good experience. I think that everybody should have to go through. We had our van break down. I got the swine flu and almost died. I had a 10% chance of living.
Yeah,
I was 18-day coma.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And, you know, that was a, you know, super humbling experience as well, where, you know, I was on life support basically, or, you know, on oxygen and going through my own little trip, like on morphine and whatever they put you on. And just like, I remember seeing the evolution of time. I saw wars. I saw dinosaurs and wars, like all in like HD, like floating.
While you were out.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I saw, you know, God, I met the Beatles. I mean, for real, like all this crazy stuff.
What'd God look like? I'm kidding.
And then
He looked like Ringo.
And then I was like in this like metal square room, naked in my own feces, and I was like, I'm done. I give up. And I remember looking up like and thinking, okay, I will do whatever. I don't know what's going on. I thought I was in the hospital because I had like gotten stabbed by a nurse with a screwdriver. I mean, the story was just insane that was going through my head, and I was like, I'm done. And then this white light is just coming at me, and it's just getting super intense. And then I basically like wake up from there. And
so basically you feel like after-death experience?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the interesting part of it is that I have my own story that I could tell about being in this coma. I can go off of lots of stories that I had that were intense, but there was also this thing going on with everybody in the waiting room, like they were, rooting for me and supporting me. And they wrote a song in the bathroom of the hospital. And like people were coming in and out of, like, they have some footage of it, but some lady goes in to pee and they're like, hey, this is our studio, get out of here.
Yeah,
They're kidding. But so they wrote a song, Drew McIntyre sang it, and it was a pretty good song too.
So what part of, so how old were you when that happened?
I think I was 25.
How long was Eclectic Approach together at that point?
Like 7 years.
And do you think they peaked before or after? Do you think you came back and you were stronger, or do you feel like you came back and you're like, time to make a change?
So at the time I went into that coma, we were recording our first our first album that we did in Seattle. We had a Kickstarter, we raised the money for it, but we poured it, all our money was gone. And then this hospital thing happened. And then after that, we raised some money to try and finish that album out, which we did. And that album was Jump Into Life, which I think was kind of our breakout album. Put a lot of time and effort into it. And then from there, we got to play Jimmy Kimmel. We got to open for like Macklemore and do some big things. So I'd say after, we probably got a little more recognition after the hospital experience.
Well, so I'm going to come back to like Kimmel and everything like that. But as far as I remember anytime I talk to a musician who is from here, which is not really that many, but everybody wants to move over to Seattle. So like, I did the same thing. And we weren't anywhere near on the trajectory that you were, or, anybody who was relevant at all.
He just wasn't good, is what he's trying to say.
But not even. I don't know, you can look it up. But the that thought process of like it not like this place not being enough and needing a larger pond. So like I remember when I was making that move, there was a ton of enthusiasm around it, and then when I got there, I found out that like, oh, this is not going to be anywhere as close to as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Not at
and
all.
Also everything is prohibitively expensive.
Oh yeah.
So you guys, it's you meet here, you go to Pullman, that's where you kind of put everything together, and then you move to Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So that experience, were you guys in Seattle when you were when the Kimmel thing happened, or where were you?
We were living in Seattle.
You were living in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you over there?
Like 6 years. It was tough though. It's oversaturated. You don't get paid as much for your gigs. I mean, we made way more money playing college shows, and there you'd hustle hard. We sold out the showbox, and after the breakdown of like all the people they pay out and the security guards and the whatever, they give you like $1,000 or $1,500. They don't let you play anywhere else for a whole month, so you're not oversaturating,
right,
and that they get a good turnout from you, and you're just like, whoa. It's definitely difficult, but you could also look at it like if I played my music for 100 people, I would be pretty confident that there'd be a certain percentage of them that like it. And I think that's kind of the idea behind going to a bigger city, is that you're exposing yourself to more people. And
you got to split that $1,000 between
5 people. Yeah.
Do you ever wonder about a band like Slipknot? How like in those little shows, how they have to split it between 9 people? You ever think about that?
The struggle's real, man. The struggle's real.
No, but
what about like a band that has like backup dancers and stuff like that? Are there like a club band or whatever?
I think when you get to that point, though, you're already big.
Well, you got like a whole horn section or something, like a ska band, Like they would have to split that $1,000. Like there's a trumpet guy. We got a trumpet guy. We got to pay the trumpet guy.
I don't know how they do it, to be honest. I mean, I know that like, I don't know how all that stuff works for bigger bands. I know like when we played on Jimmy Kimmel, it was pretty cool that like they are like a union kind of thing. And this, if you're singing at all, it doesn't have to be the main singer, but if you're singing at all, you get paid like triple or something. Yeah.
What?
And so when they sent us like the contract, I was like, suck us, even though we're going to split.
How much did you make?
I don't even remember. It wasn't a lot of money.
Oh, okay.
It was like nothing.
I'm actually interested in the mechanism of the way that whole thing works.
Well, so the guy who sang backups, it was just the drummer. I think he got paid like double. And again, this money is not what you think it is. It's like probably $1,500 or $1,000 or $2,000 or $2,500. I don't even remember. But so he sang, and then we knew some people that were going to go back on to that show, and we're like, you got to all sing like backup vocals if you can.
Everybody,
I think it's just
everyone needs a mic.
Yeah.
Because it's like unreplicatable is probably the idea behind that.
So you got on there by winning a contest, am I right?
We sort of, yeah. We did a contest through this company called Our Stage, which is a very cool company to help, musicians come up. But we went to this Battle of Bands at South by Southwest, and we won that. And by winning that, we got a bunch of different stuff. But the main thing is one of the judges was Scott Igo, and he is like the music producer for Jimmy Kimmel. And so that's where, as part of Our Stage, I think he got the idea that it's like this band would be great to have on there. And so it kind of one thing led to the other.
That's awesome.
So what's that day like?
That day? Well, one thing I'll say that I think is interesting is that the day that we found out that we were going to be on national television, and it was like kind of a dream for us, and we've been working so hard, I was extremely happy, overjoyous, just over the moon, as exciting and happy of a time you can, get at that point. And then I remember about like an hour later, or maybe the next morning, it was gone and it was go time. And we had to redo like a bunch of stuff and clean up our, bios and do all this, like, okay, here we go. This is our chance. Like, let's make sure everything's on point.
Because people are going to look for you now.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, it's the same thing kind of happens when we write a new song. I think other people can probably relate to this in their life, where it's like, we write a new song and we just like jam it, and it's the best. I love jamming and freestyling and come up with this chorus. And then the next morning I had like listened to the recording like on a jog, and I knew at that moment, like that is the most I'm ever going to enjoy this song until it's played a zillion times in a studio or in a practice room. And then it's, it's kind of going to lose its whatever. So that's a similar thing where it was time to get to work. Like, and the day that we actually played was super cool. We, Keanu Reeves walks by, even though Zoe Deschanel was the one on the actual episode.
Cool.
She wasn't there when but he walked by. He's kind of got this cool walk, and you're just like, whoa, this is surreal. And then you walk towards the stage and you see all the production going on. And I just got reminded of when I was like a kid. It kind of flashed me back. It was a nerve-wracking experience for sure, but like it went well and we enjoyed it and got great feedback, and it was a wonderful day for sure. And I think to put it on the resume meant a lot. But again, I can't express enough just how little that means in the grand scheme of why I do music and what success in music for me is. As long as I can keep singing, I'm gonna keep singing because I enjoy it.
I remember the last time we talked on the old show, there was something you said that stuck with me, which was that after all of that, all of the lead up to it, and then the performance and all the surrealness of that day and that night, that it was over, and it was over. Mm-hmm. That feeling doesn't really carry with you anymore. So it feels like something, or seems like something anyway, that you could kind of chase forever. And
could.
Yeah. But then once you get that sort of fix from it, the next day you're back where you were.
Yeah. Well, and it was like, for that experience, it was a lot, because I think people, and I'm probably guilty of it as well. Like if you're walking in somewhere, it's like, oh yeah, my band's playing a show. Oh, what's your band name? It's Eclectic Approach. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for the flyer. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, my band's going to be playing. What's your band name? Eclectic Approach. We were just on Jimmy Kimmel. It's like a whole different thing.
Right.
They're just like, oh yeah, well, where are you guys playing at? What time? Oh yeah, I'm going to tell my friend, So the name drop thing, it works a lot. And that's just, I think, the way that maybe we're wired or something. But
so you did Jimmy Kimmel. You guys were probably like at your highest of high right at that point. Mm-hmm. What happened next? What between Jimmy Kimmel Live and you becoming a loan officer? What happened in between that area?
So we rode that wave, as long as we could. And I think, there was multiple things that changed. Like I want to be a dad. I wanted to marry my wife, So like those things were becoming difficult with how much money we're making. I think there's a large gap between, artists, even mid-level artists, and superstars. And there's not a lot of superstars. So to make it is very difficult. I think we gave it a good run. And I can't put it on one particular thing. We did go to Portland to write some music. And And I think at that point, that didn't go very well. And maybe that was part of it too. But I think the biggest reason that probably didn't go well is that we were like, tired of being poor, I think. And it's like, I got a job, and a week later, or maybe 2 weeks later, I got the ring and then proposed to my wife. So like, I have this new boss. I'm like, hey, I know I just started, but I got to go do this proposal thing. Because to me, it was like real. It wasn't just an excuse. I wanted to marry my wife. I couldn't do it because I didn't have a job that paid me enough, and I got a pretty decent job. And literally, why would I waste any time?
Right.
I'm going right after this. And then moved to Tri-Cities. Our guitarist, Justin, his dad owns a resort in Bayview, and he went back there to help his dad out. And then we kind of were like, well, the housing is crazy in Seattle. You can buy a house in Tri-Cities for relatively cheap. Came back to Tri-Cities. I wanted to take over Ray's Golden Lion, bring it back to what it was. I reached out to the owner. I had a business partner that was going to help me out, and had it all like dialed in, and he said no. And I think he said no probably because it was too close to what it was before and wanted something different.
Right.
I was going to the gym, and Tom Coyne, who's my boss and a loan officer, was like, you should come work for me. And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, you should come work with me. He's like a top 100 loan officers in the country. And so I think a lot of people might look at that and say, oh yeah, you were always this creative guy that did music, and now you're a loan officer. What a complete flip. Well, before that, I was a marketing coordinator. I did a ton of like creativity stuff. I did video production. I helped put together video production. I did different graphic design stuff.
But what I found in our industry, and you're pretty much in our industry, you need to have marketing to be successful.
Totally.
So you're able to use that. It's just an added tool.
Exactly. So I'll sing songs for realtors, and I'll do birthday songs for past clients when I have the time. If I see it pop up, I'll do something like that. I try and use that creativity for sure. Like it's definitely, you can apply it to anything. But the biggest difference was, hey, I've been doing this creative thing for so long that's made no money, and I put in my time. Let's try the thing where you try and actually make money. And it turned out to be a great experience, and continues to be, where you get to help people with their home financing, get a home, and still be able to be creative. So it's...
Well, so how do you think you would have felt if somebody came to you during the height of your musical aspirations, right? What is that? Is that me? That's me. Sorry about that. If somebody came to you during like the height of your aspirations as a musician and told you that you would be where you are right now, what do you think your thought would have been?
That's a tricky question, because I could flip it and say, what would I think if I was living in Seattle, having good exposure, that I would be there? I would be like, no way, that's awesome. So I don't know. I think that my life is good. I don't have regrets. Sure. I don't have this, I never made it as a musician or something like that, or that, I gave up on a dream or something. I don't look at it that way. I think that, everybody should experience different things. Everybody gets joy in different ways. Somebody, maybe if they're having a bad day, they go play tennis or they draw something or whatever. Like, music for me has always just been an outlet when I feel down, and then became a career because people enjoyed it. And that was a surprise to me. I never really did it much out in high school outside of this garage, So I don't know.
I would. Man. How long have you been a loan officer now?
Almost 4 years, I think, something like that. Okay. Yeah.
And do you enjoy it?
I do enjoy it. Yeah. So, I did banking in between music as well. I was a personal banker for 6-7 years. I worked at Radio Shack for 6 years. And when I was 18, 19, 20, and, I got the whole customer service thing I've done for a large portion of my work outside of music. So it's a good job.
So you're with Umpqua Bank, right?
I am with Umpqua Bank.
And you do traditional loans, or what kind of loans do you do?
We do all sorts of loans: conventional, FHA, VA. We have portfolio loans, new construction, renovation, all sorts of different loan types.
Awesome. And do you love it? Do you like your job?
I do love my job. Absolutely. Yeah. It can be stressful, I think, just like anything else, but I think everything that has been the beginning of my life to now has kind of allowed me to be in this position to be able to handle the stress that can come with it, especially when you're busy. There's another kind of stress when you're not busy. being a loan officer and being someone that, you know, doesn't make money if you don't do loans is just like music. It's like this wave of like, I got good activities now. I got a nice pipeline. I've done the work and now it's paying off. And then you go into this slump where, I don't have much going on right now. Everything's going to collapse. I'm not going to make any money. And then you're back on this. So like Jimmy Kimmel, not Jimmy Kimmel, opening for Macklemore, playing in a college to 15 people during lunchtime, you know.
So you feel that your past has definitely helped you for what you're going through now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the van breaking down, the swine flu, all these adversities, you know, not having money, knowing what it's like, you know, even having a dad who has money, but getting to experience, you know, he had nothing. He came from nothing. And I think I got to take that journey and see what that's like to have to live really, really poor and get by. And to be honest with you, those were some of the best times. Couch surfing. We couch surfed, you know, across the country and got to stay with people. And they're like, one guy had like an old school mansion with all this old like antique stuff. Another guy in Wyoming, he had like music stuff set up that I was convinced was a front for him to murder us at night because the drum set was not set up right at all. No one would have been able to play that drum set. I'm like, this guy wants us to feel comfortable, so we fall asleep. So I had a hard time sleeping that night, but it was still an experience, right? You know? So
very cool.
Some great times.
One thing we talked about the last time another thing we talked about the last time we talked was your fear of kind of losing your creativity as you grew older. You were talking to me about the, do you remember that at all?
Yeah.
You were talking to me about the, because we were both pretty new dads right at that point, right? So one thing that we talked about was losing sort of like aspiration as we settled into like the monotony of what it is to be a father on a daily basis.
Oh yeah.
Where like my whole day, apart from when I'm here, every day is the same day. I'm going through my house and cleaning up the whatever mess that the other three have left for me to do, and then I go to bed. And that's kind of every day. And do you find time still to do what I'm doing with this right now? Is trying to hold on to whatever like amount of creativity that I had when I was younger.
Absolutely.
So like, what are you doing to maintain that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, you know, one of the things I'm doing is like with these magnetiles, you know, setting up like the magnetiles.
What's a magnetile?
It's like building blocks that are magnets.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have this like car track thing, and then we have this marble tower. So like we built like a marble tower, and then the marble jumps off and hits the car that goes off the thing and hits this jump, and that was like a lot of fun. But, you know, I think with what you were talking about is like when I look back on when I was younger, I was like, man, when I'm a dad, I'm going to do all these cool things, like have all these ideas of how I'm going to talk to my son or daughter or whatever. And I think, you know, that some of that kind of fades a little bit. Like I'd love to take a photo every day, you know, for 10 years and be like, check this out, you know, I put together family videos as well still. And it's very time consuming. And I asked my wife, because I gave it to her for Christmas, I'm like, how much does this mean to you on a scale of 1 to 10? In the back of my head, like anything below like an 8, there's no way I'm doing this again, because it was so stressful working in video editing and like taking all this footage, so much footage. I had to delete all the screenshots you take on your phone of different things. Anyway, and she was like 1,000.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll keep doing that. So little things like that I think are helpful, capturing moments, taking your kids on trips. But the creativity part, I think it's hard to have that energy at the end of the day. You work all day, you come, you know, and you got to help your wife, you know, clean up because she's been dealing with it all day too. And then you do all that. And like you said, it's like, okay, well, time to go to bed.
Do it again.
So
yeah, it's, while you were saying that, you mentioned taking trips. That was a huge thing for me growing up. Was like just by nature of what my dad did, I got to travel a lot, and I think that was more important to my development as a person than anything else. It was just experiencing different. I mean, whether it's food or just different cultures or whatever, or like just a different aquarium or something like that. It was
and it's good to remind yourself that too. I like, even as you say that, we just went on a trip to White Pass, and you know, you come home and you're tired, and it was an exhausting thing. It was fun, but you forget the value that it's adding. And I think that's probably important for people to remember when they're going through the stress of packing up their kids and putting on their snow gear and taking them out and putting back on their, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We just went to Disney World in the fall, and I mean, my wife and I have gone to Florida a bunch of times before we had any kids, but this is the first time that we took our 2 kids there. Have you flown
with the kids? Yeah, we went to
It's not as fun.
No,
it's terrible.
Yeah,
my kids are great flyers.
Yeah?
They just put their headphones on and don't move.
Well, okay, so that I gave my daughter an iPad, and then my son mostly slept the whole time, but like I was on daughter duty and my wife was on son duty, and
mine are a little older though too.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I have a 11 and soon to be 13.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm flying with a 3-year-old, and she just watched Frozen Moana. So like that was fine, but like once they're bored or like I don't know. When I have to go to the bathroom on a plane, I just go to the bathroom on a plane. When my daughter has to go to a bathroom on a plane, both of us have to go into that tiny little thing and figure out how we're doing that. If there was an accident, and then I say, what do you do on an airplane if a 3-year-old pees on a seat? I don't know. But those experiences I think are pivotal for for anybody growing up to just kind of experience the way that other people live. But another thing I was thinking about when you were talking about getting that experience is struggling, right? It was like, as a dad, every part, like every fiber of your being wants to help them avoid struggling. Like I want my job feels like it's to make things as simple and as pleasant for them as I possibly can, while at the same time knowing that the best people I know, their childhood was nothing like that. Like it's
but that's okay. If someone has had a tough childhood, I really love the fact that I can help maintain my children's innocence. That's what I like to call it, So they're 13 and he's mentally a 13-year-old. He's not 20 already. Yeah. And when I was 13, I was taking care of myself. So it's just a big difference,
Yeah.
So I shouldn't.
That's interesting.
Make her live on the streets.
Well, and I think what you're sort of diving into that's interesting is like all the, prodigies had terrible childhoods.
Yeah, the funniest people, the most talented people.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I joke with my wife about that, but I think, I don't know. If your kids travel and get to experience things and see things and learn from things, they don't need to have like a tough, abusive childhood to become something. And for me, I think part of that is what made me successful, unfortunately, was some of the hard times as a kid that I went through. But yeah, that's interesting. I think a lot about that.
Yeah. What do you think it is about struggling that makes somebody sort of become creative?
For me,
or violent.
When I was in high school, my parents divorced as a result of me finding something out that was pretty hard to deal with as a kid. And I was the one that discovered it, told my mom about it, that led to this divorce. And I was the last kid left of 4 living with her. And I had to hear her, listen to her cry herself to sleep at night. It was the worst experience in my life, hands down. And I didn't get good grades in high school. My parents thought I was on drugs. I wasn't on drugs. I just didn't have the personal drive because I was being pushed so hard to be. My dad came from nothing, from Syria as a doctor. Like, it's all about education. Nothing else matters. And so bottom 1% of my high school graduating class. And then I graduate high school and all of a sudden it's like, I'm the only one that's going to be able to turn my life around and do something, not someone else pushing me. And so that lit this fire, under me that allowed me to be successful. I went to CBC. I think CBC is a great school. I think getting my AA there, I have no shame in it. I think it's small classroom settings at the time. And then I went to WSU. I definitely got my grades up, and WSU was like, 80 people in a classroom. Great school, by the way. Go Cougs. I'm just saying, that struggle, I think, paralyzed me a little bit. And I think I was very insecure, and music again was this outlet for me that allowed me to, like, I think, get through some of that. And so I don't know, but I think that's part of what drives me.
Yeah.
What it makes me think of is somebody kind of being forced to choose to sink or swim. And
yeah,
you just are somebody who chose to swim.
Exactly. Yeah.
So back to creativity. I want to know what the songwriting process was like for Eclectic Approach, right?
Yeah.
So you guys had a very, very, or have a very distinct kind of vibe. Like everything is. Do you guys have a sad song? Are there sad ones?
Songs? I don't think so.
You didn't really carry yourself that way.
Upbeat.
You didn't really carry yourself. I don't think
Dance.
I've ever heard a sound or a song that you guys did.
The pancake song's the best one. So you know what I'm talking
It's
about.
a sad song about pancakes.
It's a great song about pancakes.
I don't think we have any sad songs.
What's that about?
I think it's, for me, it's that same thing of like music is this uplifting, positive thing, and I don't get satisfaction singing about depressing things in the world or in my life.
Yeah.
I'd way rather all day long talk about the underdog, talk about, overcoming challenges, talk about how life is good,
Is that in music you listen to as well? You tend to lean towards.
Yeah, I like all sorts of music. Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay.
They're not very like life is whatever, but maybe in there's some whatnot. I don't listen to depressing music or whatever, but
Yeah.
I do. I actually like depressing songs, believe it or not.
Does it make you feel good?
I just like songs with any kind of emotion.
Yeah.
If it has emotion behind it, whether it's happy, sad, and it has really good lyrics, then I'm in love with it. So
Well,
Yeah.
so
I'm a lyrical guy.
right. The lyrical. I was thinking about this yesterday. I was watching an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I heard there was a song on there, and I started thinking about the songwriting process while I was thinking about talking to you. I was thinking about songwriting process, and I was imagining Gwen Stefani trying to explain to somebody what she was thinking, or she didn't write Hollaback Girl, did he? Did she? Probably not.
I don't know.
That was Eve.
No, Hollaback Girl. Well, it's Eve and Gwen Stefani,
Yeah,
right?
but I thought Eve wrote it.
But whoever wrote that song, I was imagining them trying to explain creating, like before they actually created the song. There's like, okay, so I have this idea. Hear me out. It goes dun 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 dun, and it does that a bunch. Okay, but it's a marching band. Okay, but they just play those notes over and over, and then I'm just gonna spell the word bananas. Okay, so in that meeting.
Well, the songwriting process it's this sacred thing that no one can really crack.
Yeah.
And I think the best songs, I think someone described it as the best song is the song that you write where like the UPS delivery guy comes the next day and it's on your front doorstep and you don't know how it got there.
Yeah.
Like, cause you just lost yourself in it. The more you overthink things, I think in life in general, the more, disabling that can be. But for me, like the songwriting process, I usually get a lot of inspiration from like guitar riffs that the guys would write and they would send me that. And that's usually how I wrote. Some people are the other way around where they write the vocal melody and they write their lyrics and they present it to their band and then whatever. For me, I love to freestyle over that stuff and I'll just freestyle. And Ryan Jander, our guitar player, he's really good at like picking like the poppy parts and being like, yes, that, and
Find the hook.
And so that's kind of how we did it. But there's times like with the song Pancakes, I was babysitting these kids and I was like, what do you guys want to write a song about? And one of them was like pancakes. And I was like, let's do it. And that's how that song got written. And then, we did a song. What was it called? I can't recall, but it was another one of those UPS package delivery ones.
Right.
It was so great.
Right. Was it yesterday or Hey Jude that came to Paul McCartney and he says
I
it
want to
came
say
to
that
him
was
in a dream.
Hey Jude.
The one of them, he was playing it for people because he couldn't believe that it wasn't something that already existed. So it's interesting you mentioned lyrics because I think about this a lot. I guess sorry to anybody who came here to hear about mortgages or real estate. 'Cause I want to talk about music right now. Just turning up. They're talking about
He
that.
is a good lender though, guys.
Everybody
Umpqua Bank.
Yeah.
Jowed.
The lyric process. I think anytime I've watched any one of those people, any remarkable musician write lyrics, it's generally gibberish that. They're sort of sorting through mess to sort of find words. They're choosing syllables and then finding words, right? So, for example, one I think about a lot is "Yellow" by Coldplay. That song is called "Yellow" because he saw a phone book next to him that was yellow. Okay, so that's the only reason it's called that. However, that song means something to somebody. They hear that song and they think "yellow," yeah, like that's deep. That's deep stuff. Smells Like Teen Spirit. A mulatto, an albino, a mosquito, my libido. Those are just words that bounce along with one another. Those don't mean anything, but that became an anthem of a whole generation of people who thought there was kind of a vibe. Kurt was just saying stuff.
Yeah.
Right? I think about that a lot, about the art being something that maybe that's the best thing. Maybe that is the best art, is like something that's open to somebody else's interpretation, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's art in general. You just said it. That's like the definition, right?
it seems like a Rorschach test. Like everybody kind of can find what they want. Do you remember that song, Lips of an Angel from Hinder?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that song?
How's it go?
I'm not singing, but honey, why you calling me?
So late.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think about that song where there's a couple out there. So that song is, the lyrics were, my girl's in the next room. Sometimes I wish she was you. I guess we never really moved on. There's a couple somewhere, and that's their song. That song is about being in love with another lady, right? There's a couple somewhere who's like, that's our song, babe. But art is an interesting thing, or music is an interesting form of art, where like people put more meaning into music and into lyrics in particular, perhaps, than any other kind of art form, right? But have you ever really thought about, like, Billy Corgan, Smashing Pumpkins? He's just singing words and fitting syllables, and then the words fit in, and then people ascribe their own meaning to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you have more of an attachment when you're listening to a song? What do you find yourself noticing the most about it? Is it lyrics?
Not the lyrics.
Me neither.
You like the cadence?
Yeah. I mean, Red Hot Chili Peppers is a great example. I mean, whatever their lyrics on that one song where it's like jukebox.
Yeah.
Like tabletop.
Yeah.
And you're like,
muskrat.
Muskrat. Yeah. Like, what is he even talking about?
Whatever. I don't even know.
That guy's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm more about like just the feel of it, and the chorus usually will take you in. But
so when you're writing, do you ever like, because I do this because I write poetry, I'll come with like a one line and I'll just tuck it away. And then something else will come up and I'll put another line down, like with weeks in between each other. And then I'll just go back and throw it all together. Or do you guys really need to sit down and just get it knocked out right there while you're there? How does it work for you guys?
Well, so I'm not very good at, I wouldn't consider myself good at writing lyrics. I wrote pretty much all the lyrics that I sing and rap or whatever, but it's a mess. I use a computer, but there's like a zillion notepads, and I'll take like ideas and try and fit them all together. Like, I probably am not very good at it, but that's kind of how I do it. And I try and get it done. That's part of the what became a stress. I think with what you're talking about would be a much better way to write music, where you come up with a good line, you tuck it away, you're not in a hurry, and then put it all together. Yeah. What was that line? I got osteoporosis because I'm bad at the bone.
That's right.
I wrote that line and I was like, that's pretty cool. But now what do I put in front of it?
Right.
And what I put in front of it didn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah. But don't you find out that it doesn't really matter, right? Like it does matter to a certain extent, right? But like we were just saying, I think that lyrics are something that people are just going to they could even make no sense at all. And somebody's going to find a way to make them make sense to them.
6ix9ine is I hate to use this guy as an example, but ask him. He did an interview recently where they're like, what does this song even mean? He says it's hot trash. He's like, it's garbage, but everybody loves it because of the way it sounds. And he's like, we just made it up on the fly.
That's it. Well, so what, like with kids, like, are you noticing any kind of musical inclination?
Great question.
Yeah, please.
With kids, captions are on my TV now at all times, and so I'm reading lyrics to songs that I never even knew what the lyrics were, and I'm just like, no way. And some of them I'm like, this is great. So I think it does matter what you write, and you want it to be, deliver what it needs to deliver to the listener, and they can interpret it their own way. But there are some songs where the bad writing will show in the captions, and I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
And I said that in front of my wife's dad, my father-in-law, and I was like, "Man, this song is garbage." And he's like, "Believe it or not, I used to play that song." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Do you remember what the song was?
No.
Yeah.
It was just
his favorite song.
Something about a car and I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah.
But,
well, the thing I know, like, I don't think that the thing that's innate in music, the thing that like is almost, I mean, you may as well just say everybody likes to listen to music, right? Mm-hmm. So, but the part that's innate isn't the lyrical content. The part that's innate is the rhythm and the melody, right? But the melody is the thing that's that's more dependent on culture, right? But rhythm, more or less, except for time signatures and stuff like that, rhythm is rhythm. Like the first thing kids are going to do is pick up a spoon and hit a pot with it, right? And then like piano or guitar or like singing or whatever sort of comes after the fact. So I don't mean to say that like lyrics don't matter or what comes after osteoporosis doesn't matter. I just mean to say that it tends to matter less. I think that it matters less than the person who's torturing themselves over it to write those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think lyrics matter a lot less now than they used to.
Yeah.
Think about it. Think the Beatles.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin. I mean, Leonard Skinner, Freebird. I mean, listen to the actual lyrics of all those songs. They're beautiful. Now you got people like, you don't even know what they're saying.
Yeah.
Well, but they're still big hits.
Well,
like
but
making number one.
That actually brings up something that reminds me of something I wanted to talk about earlier about that move to Seattle, right? It feels inevitable because that's the way that it's done. That feels like the only logical move for somebody who grows up in a place like this. You have to go to the city or you die, right? Or you stagnate. I'm interested in the way, and I'm interested in your opinion about this, about the way that the advent of the internet would kind of change those things. Because you can reach anybody with anything right now, and you don't have to do it from Los Angeles. Los Angeles is just kind of the place where you can go to perform it in front of people, but you can get your music in front of people in a way that you couldn't before.
I think it's just saturation more now, though, because it's online, right?
Now
you're dealing with like 50,000 artists versus 1,000.
Right.
There is saturation. I talk a lot about this on multiple times. I've talked about this, but I think that when you are in high school, you will find an album. You'll have a band you like in high school, and their album will come out. You'll go to FYI or whatever, and you'll buy that CD.
FYE. I was just thinking about it the other day.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, in the mall. Yeah.
And then it's just this awesome thing, and then you take it back and you take your other songs and you create your list and you spend your time and you burn it, and before then you made your tape or whatever, and there was an effort that was put in when you were a kid that you don't put in now. Most people don't put in the effort now, and so to those people it is easier, I think, to be like, well, there's too much garbage out there. And I've heard a lot of people say it, and it's true, because there's more that you have access to. But unfortunately, you have to put in a little more work to find stuff. And I try and spend as much time as I can, not as much time as I try and spend at least like on one rock and roll playlist, I spent like 4 hours over time to make this rock and roll playlist that I could always just turn on with. And I add to it slowly, and it takes effort. And so people have great points about oversaturation, but I do still think there has to be an effort that you put in to create the music that you like you did back then.
Right. When you guys were starting, were you using something like Pro Tools?
Pro Tools, yep.
Yeah, so all of it's kind of done on the computer. So somebody from the generation before you would be looking at like, these whippersnappers don't even cut tape.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like they don't use a razor blade to put their music together for their overdubs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, I am interested in what music is going to be like for our kids. Right.
It's interesting.
It's going to be in the metaverse. Concerts are going to. So I was watching this thing.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go.
Dude, Oculus.
All right, so
Bitcoin. Here we go.
I'm serious. I was watching this thing where they think in the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to be able to go to a stadium, put on your headset, and you're literally going to watch like Call of Duty from the top down.
Yeah.
And you're going to see like real soldiers running through the field, and you're going to be the person in the crowd with your popcorn and your headset on watching this thing.
Yeah.
So people are still going to go to these events, but you're going to be with a headset on.
They need a room that's made to be able to simulate it exactly. So if you go into the mosh pit, there's like a thing that's going to knock you over.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, there's things swinging from the ceiling that knock you over. Yeah. That's fun.
Beer lands on your face. You're like, what?
Yeah. It smells
It's
like
happening.
urine in my
It's
house
coming.
for some reason.
I mean, look at Brooklyn Nets just did it too, where you can watch their basketball games from home in the
Yeah.
metaverse.
But
So you just put on the headset and you're right there on the floor.
I'm interested in the way that would go, particularly for a concert, right? Because I'm perfectly happy watching a concert on YouTube, right? So camera angles are changing or whatever, but it doesn't feel like I'm there. So with a VR headset, it would feel like I'm there. But won't we always kind of know that we aren't?
Yes.
We will.
Yeah.
Our children, we're talking about our children here, they won't.
I'm wondering,
But I
like,
think
it's like what would it be that would make our children not value like a real experience?
There's got to be something to being around physical bodies that you won't get from a VR headset, even if there's simulated people there. Because
I agree.
I mean, that, like the gorge, you know, you go to the gorge and there's just all these people, anything can happen. Like this guy's throwing up and this person's got their baby with the earmuffs on, and you go down and it's a whole nother group of people. It's just exciting, and you got to pee, but then you got to wait, but then you got a bottle that you hit, or, you know, I mean, there's just so much to it. And then you go camping, and then, you know, it's not replaceable.
I got a quick story for you, just to give you an example. I was at Ozzy Osbourne. It was 2000. I went to Ozfest.
Cool.
Standing at the very front. So I worked my way all the way up to the front. They shut the water off that day. It was like 98 degrees. And they did it on purpose. He went all the way to the front. He's getting ready to sing Mama, I'm Coming Home. And before he did it, he squirted water all over the crowd. He had this big like fire engine hose. Mm-hmm. So steam's rising up. Lighters are in the air because, we were still doing lighters back in 2000. And he starts to sing it, and you get to turn around and you see the steam rising up. It's dark, 18,000 people, lighters. You got Ozzy on stage singing Mama, I'm Coming Home. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You're never going to get that with a headset.
Yeah.
So I agree, but I just wonder, with laziness.
You're right. You're asking the right question. That,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's easy for us to kind of sit here and say that they would, you know, that experience can't be replicated, but will they value that experience, right? Because while you were talking about the gorge, for whatever reason, the first thing I thought of was like being up on the steps up there, and like when the sun would go down and it would get like a little cold, there's a little breeze or whatever.
So nice.
I mean, you won't get that. I mean, obviously they can replicate a breeze or whatever, but
it would be interesting to think about the future kids talking about how it's not like it used to be when they had the VR headsets.
Yeah.
Now they're talking about this new thing replacing the. I don't know.
Well, but at the same time, it's true that this is a better time to be alive than there ever has been. It's a safer time to be alive than there ever has been. Mm-hmm. I mean, you see more negativity because negativity is what gets clicks, right? Mm-hmm. So like the world becoming like a safer and sort of easier place. It's a better time to be alive than there ever has been before. So who's to say that metaverse thing wouldn't be the be all end all of you know, that wouldn't be the pinnacle of the human experience, right? So
very true. We don't know where it's headed.
Yeah.
I think put on a headset. Have you ever put on an Oculus before?
Yeah, I got real sweaty. I don't know what it was about.
But I literally just bought one 2 days ago.
What was the first thing you did?
It's amazing.
Yeah, I put it on for first thing I did was sit in this, like, you walk in like the main screen. It's like desert
so
scene.
Cool. You can change it.
You look around, you like window. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
They got a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
There's a robot game.
I played it. I used one early, and my friend had one, and I put it on, and it was just open to like a Google Maps sort of thing or whatever. And I went to go find my own house, and my friend was like, every time I show somebody this, they go try to find their own house. And he's like, well, you live there. Like, why are you trying to go there in virtual reality or whatever? But like, for some reason, it made me real sweaty. Like I don't know. I kept fogging up the
dizzy.
Yeah, it takes for me, it took like a month of doing it every now and then until I started really getting used to it.
Yeah.
I only do it like when my kids are around once a week or so.
Yeah.
I think my prediction would be that you can't replace the concert, and it will never get replaced with VR. I think VR will replace everything else that doesn't make sense. A business meeting where somebody's in another whatever. A football game wouldn't make sense. You're going to have a football game. You go to the stadium and you watch the football and the sports. But for everything else,
I can see it replacing television, watching a football game on television.
Because you can't go to a set and watch a movie get made. But if you are like in a VR movie, you're watching, you can look around at what, you know, more than just, it creates a issue. I haven't read much about it, but for the director, they have to direct everything instead of just working within that, you know, that screen size. Now they're like, well, what if the person looks over there? Make sure you're on point.
Right.
And what are you doing? And I got to direct you. And it's cool though.
Yeah. No, it's, I can see how things like that, but there's some, I don't know, but we don't know that. I think about this a lot, particularly with my kids, about like, there's some belief that I have right now that my kids will look back on me as being backwards, or my kids will look back. Cause like you can think about different things that your grandparents or your great grandparents thought about any number of cultural issues. And you're like, well, how could you feel that way about it? You know, like we don't know what we're wrong about.
Well, that's very true. That's a slippery slope of a conversation. But
one
thing my brother said that I try and use a lot that I think is such a cool little saying. I don't know if it's his saying or what, but when it comes to like being a good influence on your kids and a good influence on the world and a good change, you know, for what's right and whatnot, is wake up, do your best, be the best you can be, teach your kids right and wrong. And if at the end of the day you got time to make a difference in your community, then go make a difference in your community. And I mean, that's, I think as a parent, your biggest job is going to be making sure your kids are going to be good kids and that they're going to know right from wrong. And I think they'll look back and know that if you tried your best, that you may have been wrong about some things you didn't see the other side of. But overall, I think that's just a good way of looking at things.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm hoping that, you know, hopefully as we become more and more open-minded as a species, right? Hopefully that sort of lends us to being more adaptable to progress in the future. Mm-hmm. But so you made that move before. You made the move to Seattle, and you when you ended up coming back, did it feel like a defeat in any way?
Not that I was consciously aware of. You know, I think that a majority of my life, my attitude is positive. I try and stay away from politics online. I try and stay out of things that people are, you know, going back and forth about, as much as I want to jump in sometimes, you know. But sometimes in working from home as well, I'm like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. I think there was something that I didn't recognize, like subconsciously, that felt like maybe I had been defeated. And I remember even when I was done with the swine flu, this lady that was a nurse, everybody else was so optimistic, and she's like, you'll be paying for this, like you're gonna go through some pain from this or something. And I don't know what she meant by that, but when I had came back after a little while, maybe I was still in Seattle, but even though I was still in Seattle, we had basically made the decision, and I had started working full time and whatever, and I watched this car accident where these people died, and then I was getting married in a couple months, and I just hit this like anxiety thing that was very, very difficult. It took me like a year to get over it, and I felt helpless, and I think that was part of that, because I feel like maybe somebody else in the band, I can't recall, but I felt like somebody else may have gone through something similar, where you had spent this big part of your life chasing this thing, like there's gonna be some, whether it be conscious or unconscious, emotions and things you're going to have to go through. And I think I was just always in that, oh yeah, this is fine. This is, you know, that maybe I got hit with all of that at once. So my hand went numb, and I thought I was going to die. So that's where the swine flu got kind of tied into it, because I'd almost died from a cold. Right. I'm like, well, this is going to almost kill me too. So
how did, and I don't want to get too into it, but how did a COVID affect you then, being that you've already had the flu, already been in a coma?
Sure.
How did that affect your mindset?
Yeah. So like, I mean, the idea in my head was like, why at 25 years old did I get this swine flu and almost die, and not this other person? And it's just hard to know why that was. Do I have not as good of an immune system? It hasn't really been an issue in my life that I get sick. You know, my dad would tell me that, you know, you have this great immune system now, because you've gone through that and your body's stronger now. And so I held on to that. I took all the precautions that were advised. Did
you have that little fear in the back?
I had a little bit of fear, but it wasn't it wasn't that bad to where I was like, oh my God, I got to like not touch anything and clean every bag and whatever. But I definitely took precautions for myself and for my kids and wife and whatnot, because I was like, well, what if I'm, you know, in that category? So
you never know.
What does coming out of a coma feel like? Because I imagine it like I wake up and everything, there's a car flying over me or whatever. Like, you're like, what is that?
I mean, everybody's going to have a different thing, but I can tell you in detail what my experience was like. There's this bed, it's called a rotoprone bed. It's what saves people's lives when they have pneumonia. And so I'm spinning in this thing. I kind of know that it exists because I'm partly awake in this coma, I guess, or I can just hear things. I know it exists. It's like $1 million machine that, had it not been invented the 5 years prior to me going in, I'd be dead for sure. But I broke it for some reason. In my mind, I broke it. I didn't really break it.
Oh, okay.
I broke it. The nurses hated me. Everybody hated me. I was like asking them, I don't know if it's real or not, but I was like, can I get a different room like up higher? I felt like up higher meant you get better service, like it was a hotel or something. And they're like, what do you need? And blah, blah. So anyway, when I was coming out of the coma, the door opens of this rotopron bed. After I hit this button, and it opens up, and it's like, get out, like a sign that said get out for me to leave and exit this place. And then I saw this familiar like nurse's face, and I was like, he was like the nicest dude. Like, you get so connected with those people. And he like kind of brought me back to like, you didn't break this bed kind of thing. And for 24 hours, I didn't sleep. And I talked for 24 hours to this lady about, I just unloaded 18 days of just all the things I saw and just opened up. I mean, going through so many different emotions. And then I remember looking outside and seeing the trees wave and just having this like feeling of being a kid where like, I'm seeing life for the first time, like how beautiful it is. And like, then I go outside for the first time and breathe in the air. And you just like, I had to like kind of learn to walk a little bit. Like I couldn't just get up and run around. So I was on a wheelchair. I got to play piano again, but I saw the flag, the American flag whipping in the wind. And it's just like this appreciation for life came over me. And I think something that's worth sharing about being appreciative is a great thing. Gratitude is great to have every day, but there is an overdose of that is not sustainable. And that is what I went through for a long time. And it was great. And I wrote it, but I knew I was like, I'm like overly grateful, it's too much. It's not a good balance. So I think over time, your brain will try and balance you out. It'll say, oh, you saw God or you saw this because of the morphine you were on. You're thankful and you're appreciating things because of this and this and this and this. And it kind of beats down that, what do you say? It beats down like that person that's like just high on life and heaven or whatever. So you kind of got to fight it back a little bit to find that balance and have good reason for, your life. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you hope is the future of art in the Tri-Cities and music in particular? Because you tried to revitalize Ray's Golden Lion for that reason.
Yeah.
And that got shot down. And as of right now, there's Emerald, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that it?
It really is. And it's not even much of that anymore. It's more like a jazz band they have going on there these days. So
yeah, they do a lot, I think, to support local music and bring in bands. And it's not the scene that like Ray's was, where it's like tons of kids and it's packed and it's, a party, which that's great. I mean, what they're doing is great. That's like, you could argue more pure art that they're bringing in, more pure music, but it's hard for me to say. There's a part of me that wants to say the whole thing about it doesn't matter if there's a venue, and the music scene can be, hopefully, that people here realize that music is a tool that they can use to be happy and to create things that maybe not always be happy, but create art is a beautiful thing. And hopefully there's programs in place and there's people that are empowered to do that. As far as like venues go, it's difficult. You have Hapo stage. We tried to get in with them for the Live at 5, but the Live at 5, I want to talk trash about that because I reached out and they were like, you got to play where you're not going to get paid the first time. You got to play for 4 hours. It has to be 70% cover music and blah, 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 blah. And I was like a little bit offended, like, because I had worked, I played so many shows in the Tri-Cities. Like,
I've been on Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, not even that, but just like, I've been doing this
but
for
really,
a long,
though, you are one of the more
time.
talented artists here. Let's be real. You are one of the more successful people in the scheme of things of the Tri-Cities.
Handsome.
Well, yeah, maybe not that, but but the truth is, the Live at 5 is for people who want to listen to the classic rock or the whatever music. And for me to rag on that, it's just ignorant, sort of, because that is what they are trying to accomplish. Now, granted, I think we'd be successful there. We'd cover Eclectic Approach, 70% of it. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But yes, I do really hope that there's a bigger music scene that somebody can take that on. I think I could talk forever about how disappointed I am in the owner of Ray's Golden Lion, who owns other buildings as well. And there have been many people who have approached him with great ideas and he's turned all of them down. I think it's a crime. I think that the city, I don't, maybe believe that they should get involved, but like, I feel like our city could be so much better if that could turn into something again.
Yeah, because isn't it more like a stopping point too for bands? Because if they're going to Seattle or Portland and they need a one-off, you can do
and it could be because the Tri-Cities isn't getting any smaller. We're like the 300,000 people like in the general area. where a place like that, I remember there used to be like churches people would play where larger, not larger, but like touring acts would kind of come through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of here, but thinking specifically just for the aspiring musicians that are growing up here, they're not going to stop creating, but it's a shame that they don't have a place. Because like Ray's would just, I remember being surprised at how easy it was to just kind of get on a show there and start.
I mean, Steve made a good point on our podcast when he talked about how once kids turn 18, there's just nothing here for them and they're gone. They want to chase their music dream. They're going to go to Seattle. They're going to go to Pullman. They're going to go to LA. They're going to go wherever it takes because we just don't have a scene here. And I know that he wants to fix that as well. So
yeah, and I mean, like Chase Thompson built this awesome place, but because he got it through a grant, there's no alcohol, and so that's gonna, turn off a bunch of people that like to on the weekends go drink and watch a band play, whether it's 2 beers or 200 beers. There's 2 problems. There's the venue problem, which that could be fixed by somebody taking a chance. It's going to take money because you can't. Ray's Golden Lion is a reasonable rent. You could jump into that and with $150,000 can turn it into something great. And you could probably find an investor for that, but they're saying no. So you got to build a whole building to get something cool in a good location. So there's that. And then people need to respect the fee to go and watch a live band play because one of the things for us, we have 2-3 guys that do music full time in our band. We can't just play a show for $500. It just doesn't work like that. And these venues, they're trying their best. Breweries, wineries, they have more money, but these clubs, they're going to put $15 so this band, reasonable bands could come and play that maybe no one's heard of. Well, I haven't heard of them. I'm not paying $15, but you're going to buy a $15 margarita or a $15 smoke drink at the, whatever, or a $15 glass of wine, but you won't pay $15 to watch a band play. So I think changing that thought process to, for people, it's like support the music. Even if you don't end up liking the band, you're helping them bring in more bands.
And think about it. Paying $15 to see a local band or paying $400 for a ticket for a big band these days.
Mm-hmm.
Like tickets are ridiculous. So you might as well support the local artists.
Yeah, or $2 for a virtual reality concert.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. It's cheaper.
It probably won't be.
And that's the argument for leaving the area too, which is unfortunate, right? Is like there are more people because there are more people. There are more people who are willing to pay a little bit to come see you, but there's a trade-off there of like, did you guys all live together while you were in Seattle?
Most of us did, yeah. I mean, some folks had girlfriends. Was that too much time together? No, it was a great learning experience for marriage. Oh, okay. It was a great learning experience for relationships in general, patience. There were times where we would butt heads. I think the worst time that I can think of for myself was I was mad at one of the guys in the band, and he was like, "Is there baby wipes? Someone hand me some baby wipes," because he was driving, and he's like, "Does anybody know where they're at?" And I was like looking right at them, and I was like, I didn't say anything. That was probably the maddest, worst moment for me. Which seems like not that bad, but it's kind of bad because this is a simple favor for someone, and I just was like, nope. I'm not even going to say nothing. You're too needy for stuff right now.
I mean, that's how it is, though, when you're with a group of people for a long period of time, no matter who it is.
Yeah. For me, that was a low point, but it was good, though. All that was good. And you learn to talk to people right, too. Like, I think as a kid, when you're 20, 18, whatever, you just can say, you think you can say whatever to people because they're your friend and you're in a fight with them. But the reality is you're not allowed to talk like that to anybody. I think you learn that over time. And it was tough, but it was great. Everything that music was just great learning experience.
Sure. Youth is wasted on the young. Mm-hmm. Stupid idiots.
They are, quite unexperienced.
They're bad.
Yeah.
Kids are bad.
We ready for me?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So we know musician from Kennewick, or actually Richland, right? West Richland? Did you go to Hanford?
I grew up in West Richland, went to Hanford, Tapteel.
Okay. So let's fast forward. Loan officer. What would you say is your least favorite thing, your favorite thing, and one of your favorite stories in the last 4 years of being a loan officer? So favorite, least favorite, maybe a cool story about a client.
Okay. I think my favorite thing is when I'm doing something that I don't know if it's going to help me in any way. So like I was doing drone footage for realtors as a way to add value in the relationship, because realtors often will advise people where to go for services, whether it be home inspections or lending or whatever. So I would do drone footage, and I remember driving out and doing this drone footage, and then I had to go back out there because there was a no-fly zone, but his hadn't been updated or whatever it was. So I'm driving back out there like, what am I doing? Like I need to value myself more for customer service. I shouldn't have to do these things, but I did it, and it ended up being I was talking to them, and I was doing drone footage for their listing, and then ended up helping them with their $1 million house, and actually becoming pretty good friends with them. So like that whole experience of just like putting in that effort and having it pay off is always such a like good feeling and a win, especially when you do a lot of hard loans and a lot of easy loans. And I think the same is for life. You know, you're not always going to get the easy deals, and there is no free money. There's no easy money. It all takes effort, and the payoff on that was a really great experience. Just knowing that it's like, okay, that wasn't a waste. My least favorite experience, I was dealing with a guy who there were some issues, and he was just, they were very rude people. And I was trying my best being new to deal with some of the things that was, I think, in year one. And I'd have to like, so stressful, go back and forth. And he was just very rude, and it got to the end and I needed something last minute, and then he started cussing at me, but then hung up on me. And I just was like, it was like the worst feeling for a month. I think I was pretty beat down. But again, I hate to be so positive, but it was like the best thing that ever happened to me. Right. Again. Right. The same thing with this lady who thought she thought I was, I offended her, which hurt my feelings quite a bit, because I would never intentionally offend somebody. I was trying to help her out. And anyways, regardless of whether she's right or not, it's always nice to remember that, like, you know, I'm as a loan officer, my job is to serve, to help people with their finances, to be, you know, cautious of maybe some of their insecurities and whatnot. And everything that's negative is always turning around to a positive thing, I think. Awesome, so what was the last one? A funny story? Yeah,
good story. Just it could be just a story that made you feel like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing now.
Well, I'm just thinking about the funny story of the lady who got drunk at the signing and couldn't do the deal, but that's probably not too funny for the...
That's a good one.
So something that stands out that made me feel good about... Yeah. I think being able to help people isn't something that I came into this, like, again, I came into this because I had done the whole creativity thing. Let's try the thing that could potentially make good money doing. And, you know, having success in that over time has been just a really great blessing for me. I mean, literally every day I'm confused what's happening, because it's so different than what I was doing before. It's so much more rewarding. All the effort that I put in, I get, you know, back. It's one of those jobs that allows for that. And if I'm going to be lazy, I'm not going to make money. And that's kind of how music was too, but it's definitely a different, you know, pay and whatnot. But being able to help someone with like a very small loan who can build worth for the first time in their life, and to work really hard for that, and to have them get that gift, and then in 3 years do a refi where you're pulling them out of mortgage insurance because their house is worth so much more now, and they're worth so much more now, and have that, like, you know, pride in their home and whatnot. I think that's a great thing. Helping people who are first-time home buyers, and then helping people who are, it's back to that same thing, like the big deals and the small deals. It's all just this kind of balance that is rewarding.
So what's next? Where do you want to go now? You're a husband, father, been at Umpqua for 4 years. You're a loan officer. Obviously, you're going to continue in that career. What are you thinking? Do you have any future plans?
I mean, outside of just having you know, it would be really nice to know that, like, I've built my name up enough to where I can relax on the whole, like, being stressed about the next month and the month after that. Having that would obviously be a great accomplishment. Just knowing that, you know, I don't have to be afraid that things are not going to work out would be great. And I think to accomplish that is going to take more time. I'd like to become a super pro at being a loan officer, and I think that's going to take time. I'd like to write another album. That would be great. Ryan Jander is actually working on a hip hop instrumentals right now to send out to Putnam. Already sent him some,
really?
and sent me too.
Okay.
So continue working on music. Just, I mean, it's a never ending battle to be the best person that you can be. So, I mean, that's just the journey I'll be on till I die, is how do I improve? How do I be the best I can be, and utilize my time in the best way possible.
Awesome, man. I love it.
It's interesting you mentioned that that feeling of that feeling of helping somebody grow their we'll say wealth, but grow their nest egg, right? Like I'm working with somebody right now who they were very, very young and very much in love when they bought their first house, and they were broke, but they made a choice to buy instead of renting, and they bought right before COVID started, and then the house appreciated like they do, right? And then they found new work, asked me what their house was worth, and then got a pre-approval, and are in a completely different segment of their life. And now I say that while I was kind of feeling like I've always had a pet peeve with ever since I got into real estate about people talking about making dreams come true. Because I've never really felt like that was actually the case, right? So whenever I see that, I see an Instagram post about, I'm going to help you, it's going to be a dream and everything's perfect or whatever. It's like the way that this works, especially the first time, and really any time, I guess, is it's stressful. Then it's expensive. And then at the end of it, you have to move, which is the worst thing in the world, moving. But there are circumstances where you really are helping somebody grow. Yeah.
That's like, I think, the Kool-Aid thing. Sometimes it's hard to drink the Kool-Aid, but I mean, it's exactly what you said. And that's what inevitably makes someone enjoy the home as much as they do, is they have to go through the grind. That equity isn't free. It's just like money isn't free, you know, like you're going to have to keep your house up. You're going to have to make repairs. My water heater went out yesterday, like 3:00. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, all right, well, we need hot water. So, I mean, it's a journey for sure. The Brian Buffini guy, he just had a podcast and he talks all about home ownership. I think the number's like you're 44 times like higher net worth than someone who rents. I mean, there's just so many stats, and just having a home that you can come home to, you know, and raise your kids and whatnot.
I just saw a stat that we're below 1 million homes in forbearance for the first time in a very long time.
Nice.
So at an all-time low for foreclosures right now too.
That's great.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's supply and demand. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
It's going to be weird.
Yeah.
It's going to be weird. Well, are we done with our commercial?
Yeah, we're done.
I like it.
I just want to get, a little
No,
bit
that
of
was
fun
great.
off there.
I appreciate that.
I feel bad, just talking just music. So.
I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Of course, man.
I don't know that
man.
I'm that important to listen to.
No,
but
you did well.
I appreciate
We'll
it.
find out.
I'm trying to get 1,000 views on Facebook, son. Blow
Oh,
up.
you'll get that. How many we get with Steve? 5,000? 5,000 views. So.
Steve can't sing.
Yeah, what's up? Yes, Dad.
Yes, Dad.
We're cutting out.
Well, thanks, man.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you in your career and grow and, do lots of loans together.
I look forward to it as well.
Handsome gentleman.
All right, we're playing some Pancake.
Peace.